Hello, everybody. In Chapter 10, we're going to be going through online content and media. So, we're going to start out with just a quick discussion here. Uh, do you subscribe to any online video streaming services such as like a Netflix or Hulu? If so, which ones? What sites have given you the best overall viewing or entertainment experience, and why? And then, what are the advantages of watching traditional television over watching online TV and film? So, just like the examples I listed with, Netflix and Hulu. I think those two are probably the most prominent and probably the ones that most everybody kind of has. I know, there are sites such as like HBO Go and different like services. One that we have been using, my wife and I here recently, has just been utilizing Amazon Prime. Quite a bit, and then you can actually buy subscriptions, off of your Amazon Prime. So we do a lot of shows on Showtime, so we'll have that for like a few months out of the year. Same way for like HBO, you can add it on there. It's like, I think an extra $10 a month. We'll add it on for, we'll kind of flip flop between the two of them, add them on for a couple of months at a time. Discontinue it for a while until some of those shows kind of, start popping back up and accumulating. Then we'll get it for a couple of months and then start binge watching again. So as far as, overall best viewing experience between the sites, I would say Netflix has been really good. I don't have any complaints when it comes to Netflix. The one complaint I do have about Hulu is they do offer different varieties on how much you want to pay each month. You can get the cheap option, which is what we go with, which I think is like $5 or $6 a month, something like that. But with that, there are commercials that you have to sit through. You can upgrade to like $10 a month, without commercials, and then I think there's even like a premium beyond that that's maybe like 15-20 bucks a month, something like that. So I kind of wish they almost just had one sort of package that you could go with, maybe just like a $7 $8 a month package without the commercials. And I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with the commercials. It's the amount of commercials. Like whenever we watch just kind of like a standard sitcom, it seems like there's commercials 4 or 5 times throughout the episode. So it might be a 20-minute show, but it takes almost a half hour to get through it, just like you would normally if you're watching standard television. And then what are the advantages of watching traditional television over watching online TV and films? The big thing that I've noticed is I don't necessarily know about kind of what's going on like local news as much. I get online and check like local papers and everything every day. But when it comes to like local like news stations and everything, I never see like those commercials anymore. And honestly, I don't see commercials at all that much anymore, which is kind of weird because there might be like a new product or a new service or something like that that's being constantly aired through commercials, and I don't typically see it all that much just because we don't do a whole lot with traditional television. And the other thing that I have noticed is, coming out of summer here, we're, out of storm season, but with storm season, you get those like alerts while you're watching like local TV if there's like a storm coming in and that sort of thing, where you don't get that with like the online TV. So, I mean, that's, kind of like a safety thing. And I know like, with the emergency systems that we do have these days, you can always get like text message alerts and different things, and people are much more up to date with like weather apps and that sort of thing. But it still is kind of nice to have that alert like on your TV and have somebody on the other end of the TV kind of explaining what's going on here locally. Are there any tornadoes in the area, anything like that. So I would say that's been kind of one of the disadvantages of watching online content rather than your more traditional television. So some of the trends here in online content. So, mobile platform accelerates the transition to digital content. Tech companies become significant players in content production business. When you think about like an Apple, they're slowly becoming bigger and bigger whenever it comes to content. Continued growth of a number of Americans who watch digital video and TV online. Ebook sales growth slows. Digital music sales top physical sales. Console games flatten as mobile games soar. Netflix is the largest consumer of bandwidth in the United States. Cloud storage services, a huge market for mobile device content. Conflict continues over net neutrality rules, and then time spent with digital media exceeds time spent with television. So we're kind of going to go over a lot of these topics here within this chapter. I don't necessarily say that any of the things that I just kind of read off of here are necessarily surprising by any means. I mean, it's all kind of like common knowledge at this point. Just more and more people are doing things online, watching a lot of things through their mobile devices. Netflix being the largest consumer of bandwidth there. So, like I said, we'll go over it here in this chapter a little more detail. But like I said, not all that big a news. So, when it comes to content, the average American adult spends 4,500 hours a year consuming various media. Time spent with digital media accounts for 50% of total media time spent, and then desktop and mobile use comes down to about 6.2 hours a day. I actually want to say, consider that to be like a little bit of a lower number than what I would have traditionally thought. Whenever you think, individuals are at their computers. At work for almost 8 hours a day, sometimes a little bit more, and then whenever you do get home, a lot of people are spending most of their time looking on their cell phones. So I would have thought that that number would have been closer to 8, possibly even 10 hours a day. So kind of surprising to see it be a little bit lower than expected. So internet and traditional media. So you have cannibalization versus complementary. So does time on internet reduce time spent with other media? And then there's a massive shift in audience to web, tablets, and smartphones. So I actually just saw an article the other day about the number of hours Americans spend on their cell phones and how it's actually more complementary to television. So more and more people are actually on their cell phones while they're watching television. And I'm guilty of that. And I think the biggest thing for me is like I'll be watching television. If a commercial does come on, I'll probably get on my cell phone, start looking for something. But the other thing, the kind of the cool part about the world we live in today is, I'll see somebody like in a television show and be like, oh, that person looks really familiar, and then I'll start to look, online as I'm watching the television show, find out like other TV shows, movies that they've been in, and then I kind of go into that internet rabbit hole where I start looking at like other things and before you know it, I've been on my phone the entire time I've been watching TV, and I really haven't absorbed any of the content that's been on television. And that was the thing within the article that I was reading. It's just saying that more people are looking for television shows that maybe aren't as intense. Just something where you come home after a long day at the office, you just kind of want some mind-numbing entertainment. You're watching sitcoms, stuff like that, and then as you're watching them, a lot of people are playing around on their tablets or their smartphones, playing games, looking stuff up on the internet, that sort of thing. But then, I mean, obviously, we do have times in television shows that still call for like more of those like intense type of situations. If you look at like a Game of Thrones or like a Breaking Bad, if we go a little bit older, those television shows, I never am on my phone during those television shows just because there's so many details that you have to pay attention to, and something's just constantly changing on it. So, with television viewing, music consumption remains strong. Reading has increased. I think the big part about reading has increased is just there's so many opportunities for articles online and just different articles that you can read on there, especially with more and more people either looking online through tablets, smartphones, or their desktop computers. People are constantly reading online. Some of the impact of the internet. So increase in total demand for media, including traditional products like books. And then you've got physical products replaced by digital. Online content delivery revenue model. So you have a subscription-based, which is your Netflix. That's kind of your standard subscription. You have an a la carte, which kind of pick exactly what you want to get. One of the things I'm trying to think of, Dish Network, they have, it's not called Bing, but it's something along those lines, to where you can kind of pick like the channels that you want through your like online service. Amazon, what I was talking at the kind of the beginning of this chapter is, with Amazon, you can kind of do an a la carte as well, where you can kind of add on different services throughout the months, and then, kind of take some off as well. And then you do have, advertising supported, so free and freemium. So with that, I mean, you might have like a CBS or an NBC or something like that, to where you can watch like a lot of their shows just on their website for free, but you do have to sit through advertisements for that. And then you got free content can drive users to paid content. Um, and then users increasingly pay for high quality, unique content. And that's the thing about the world we live in today is there's so many different places to where you can get content these days where it's almost a little overwhelming. So now we have your Hulu, you have your Netflix, you have your HBO, some of the other different streaming services. Apple is getting ready to come out with kind of their streaming service. Amazon is coming up, and all these places have original content that is very unique. And keeping up with all of it, that's kind of like the bad part about it is you might have a really good show I'll use YouTube for an example. YouTube might have like a really good show. Chances are I'm probably not going to watch it just because I'm watching so much content on other sites such as like a Netflix and YouTube. I go there for quick kind of videos, maybe 10-minute videos or less. Whereas if I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch something in a little more length. I'm probably thinking about like a Netflix or a Hulu or something along those lines. So I think as far as YouTube, that is kind of a stigmatism that they have to kind of get away from to where if they are going to start developing more content. So free or fee. So early years, internet audience expected free content but willing to accept advertising. So early content was low quality. So think about those early years of YouTube, to where you might have a commercial or two, but it wasn't what it is today, where there's literally a commercial on every video that you're going to watch. And yes, the quality wasn't all that great. And then with advent of high quality content, fee model is successful. So iTunes, where you can go onto iTunes, buy anything. Millions of users buy from legal music websites. It's not like the old days with like a Napster. And then YouTube cooperating with Hollywood and New York film production studios. So kind of what I was just talking about with that last slide is YouTube just becoming a bigger play with original content. So with media industry structure, we have three separate segments. You have print, movies, and music. So each are dominated by a few key players with a little crossover. Then deliver platform now becoming content producer. So Comcast acquisition of majority interest in NBC Universal. That was 5, maybe even closer to 10 years ago now. You have AT&T's merger with Time Warner, and then Verizon's purchase of AOL and Yahoo. So we are starting to see a lot more mergers. And then, the one thing that's not mentioned here is just Amazon, where Amazon didn't necessarily merge with anybody. They just kind of come up out of nowhere and said, we're going to be a major player in content now. So, you do have those kind of like, companies that are coming out of nowhere just to get kind of in on, the content. So for online publishing industry, so it's $80 billion based originally in print. This is moving rapidly to the internet. So 3 segments with that. You have your online newspapers, ebooks, and then online magazines. As far as like online newspapers go, most of the newspaper websites out there will have, you can read maybe 5 or 10 articles, throughout the month for free. And then after that, you need to buy a subscription. One of the ways to get around that actually is if you are using Google Chrome, and if you right click and then open a tab in incognito mode, then you can view those articles for free all throughout the month, and they don't put a limit on that. So just kind of a fun fact for you. The only website that I have come across that does have kind of high tech security procedures put into place would be Wall Street Journal. They've got a lot of money to kind of throw around at that, and they're not necessarily willing to, be able to let anybody just view their articles. And then we got ebooks, your e-readers through, Amazon, Kindles, even, considering like an iPad. And then we do have like online magazines where, online magazines are one of those things that I find pretty interesting just because I'll use like Golf Digest, for example. I am currently getting a free subscription to Golf Digest, but any of the articles that's in the monthly magazine, I can just go out to their website and I can read for free. So it's almost to the point it's just like you're kind of wasting your time even with just the regular magazine, and they're wasting kind of money even printing that magazine if you can just go out and just get it online for free. So for online newspapers, so the most troubled segment of publishing industry, so revenue shrunk from $60 billion in 2002 to about $27.5 billion in 2017. So four factors in decline. You've got the growth of the web, mobile devices, that is alternative medium, alternative digital sources for news, such as like Twitter. You've got failure to develop suitable new business models, and then rise of social media and role of directing traffic to newspaper content. Also, kind of Twitter playing a role into that. Online newspaper industry strengths and challenges. So, one of the strengths here, newspaper audience size and growth. A lot of people are still out there wanting to get their news every day. And there is quite a bit of growth in that, just because more and more people are looking to get news on a daily basis. The challenge with that is digital ad revenue. Is just kind of saying that I have a million people visiting my website each day, and getting advertisers through that. And then strength. Content is king. So having really good content on your website. One of the challenges, finding a revenue model that's going to fit your newspaper. Another challenge is just growth of pure digital competitors. And then the final challenge here is, can newspapers survive digital disruption? So all those challenges are kind of big challenges that we're seeing on a daily basis with newspapers. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if there's any consolidation between newspapers here in the next few years, just because we're kind of getting to the point where a lot of these newspapers, I don't think, are going to be able to survive all that much longer unless they do consolidate. So there's tons of sources for media and content out there right now, especially with the newspapers. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these start to consolidate shortly. So for magazines, they did have a rebound. So physical magazine circulation falls after 2001, exception being in special interest magazines. But we do have digital magazines now. So ad revenue is growing, total audience size is increasing. Popular websites drive traffic to online magazines, the New Yorker, Today app, and then you do have magazine aggregators. One of the things I was just talking about with Golf Digest, that is kind of a special magazine where I'm trying to think even how I got the free subscription. I have like a year free subscription. I got it through someplace, just signed up for it randomly. But yeah, like I was talking about, you can just go onto their website and just view like all the articles that's going to be in the magazine for free. So just kind of a kind of crazy thing to think about. Ebooks and online publishing. After several years of explosive growth, ebook sales have flattened in recent years, so 7.5 billion in 2017, roughly equal to physical book sales for the first time. New channel for self-publishing authors. Major publishers still dominate source of book content, and then while some large bookstore chains have disappeared, the number of small independent bookstores has grown by 35% since 2009. I think that's kind of an interesting stat, and I don't necessarily know if I have an explanation for it. I mean, just from a personal standpoint, I think I would probably be more apt to kind of go into a smaller bookstore and maybe support like a local business. And smaller bookstores like that are usually like pretty cool. They'll have like somebody who's well versed in different books, and can kind of like point you in the right direction. Whereas if you went to say like a Barnes and Noble, they you might just run into like somebody that might be like first job, might not have as much knowledge when it comes to like certain books or certain areas of that sort of thing. And then just overall, I mean, it's not like a local business. So I mean, you're kind of supporting like a corporation at that point. So that is an interesting fact, though. Amazon and Apple, so the new digital media ecosystem. So ebook hardware, software combined with online megastores. So Amazon Kindle, this link to Amazon Store and cloud storage. My wife has an Amazon Kindle, so it's linked to our, Amazon Prime account. And then, Apple iPad multi-purpose tablet, linked to Apple stores for that. And then authors able to bypass traditional agent publisher channels. That is the really cool thing about, the world today, is how you can, bypass any, like, you don't necessarily need an agent. You don't need a publisher to get published. Pretty much anybody can be published. You just have to kind of figure out how you want to go about it, and then get your word kind of out there on the internet. So for ebook business models, so the industry composition. So you have intermediate retailers such as booksellers. You've got traditional publishers, technology developers, device makers such as e-readers, and then you've got vanity presses. You've got the wholesale model, which retailers pay wholesale price and establish a retail price. Agency model, distributor as an agent must charge publishers retail price, and then you've got Apple and book publisher price fixing. So for online entertainment industry, we have four major players here. We've got television, movies, music, and games. So internet is transforming the industry. So between mobile devices, social networks featuring video streaming, download and streaming services, growth in broadband access, closed streaming platforms, reduce need for DRM. Emergence of very large-scale integrated technology media companies such as Amazon, Google, Apple, and Netflix. So for home entertainment between television and movies, so transition to new internet delivery platforms, streaming and downloading services. You got OTT or over-the-top internet delivery, and then also mobile platform. Binge watching versus linear TV. Social network influences, and then uncertain future for cable TV growth. So overall, I'm really interested to see where television and movies goes. Right now, there's more and more talk about how a lot of movies will just be released directly to on demand or released directly to Netflix, a couple of things like that, instead of going to like the movie theater first, just because whenever you go to the movie theaters, it is really expensive to go out. Going to the movies is something that my wife and I, we really like to do. We don't do it like all that frequently, but when we do it, like we go to a movie theater. Actually, the one we've been going to most frequently has been the one up in Bloomington, and it's kind of cool because they do have like reclining chairs now, and you can get different types of snacks, not just your traditional kind of like popcorn and different types of candy. I mean, you can get fries, you can get pizzas, burgers, different things like that, and then you can also get alcohol like while you're sitting there. So I mean, that is kind of bringing the home kind of feel to the movie theaters, which is kind of cool for it. But don't get me wrong, I do enjoy just kind of sitting at home watching TV or movies, whatever it might be. Social network influences, I think that played a huge role in a lot of the television and movies that's out there, just because a lot of people kind of get talking on social media sites about different television shows. Like whenever you think about like a big kind of phenomenon, kind of like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, even towards the end there. I mean, everybody's on social media websites, talking about the latest episode or talking about like the upcoming finale or whatever it might be. So in that, I think that just draws more and more people into watching it, just because more people are talking about it. And then as far as uncertain future for cable TV growth, they have started to see slower sales in cable TV. The big part about that is just more and more people are just cutting the cable and going to just like more of a digital front. So going with like a Netflix or a Hulu. My wife and I did that about a year ago, and we really haven't missed it at all. So it's been kind of nice. The one thing we do, or the one thing I guess I do miss, is a lot of like the live sporting events, which lucky enough I'm able to kind of mooch off of my parents and get their login for their DirecTV, and then that way I'm able to watch live sporting events on like ESPN or something. But yeah, even with ESPN, they've got the ESPN Plus now, to where you can just buy a subscription, I think, for about $5 a month. So definitely going to be interested to see where the future of cable TV goes. So feature length movies. So Hollywood maintaining control of content creation, delivery, revenue. So you got DVDs and then rental of DVDs. Although I don't know how many people are still kind of renting DVDs. Electronic sale through downloading movies. You've got subscription streaming, and then video on demand. Some of the challenges involved with that. So you've got digital formats produce less revenue than physical. Pressure to change release windows, growing strength of online movie distributions like Netflix, and then site streaming or providing downloads of pirated content. For music, this is the most disrupted of content industries. Move from physical to digital product. Digital revenues, 80% of all revenues are digital. And then you got two types of digital music services. So you've got streaming subscription, such as like internet radio, and then you've got digital download, which is download on your own. The big thing with digital download is if you download it onto the cloud, then I mean you can access it anywhere just as long as you have internet access. If you want to actually download it like on your phone or something like that, then you need something that has quite a bit of storage on that. So that's been like the number one issue that I've run across. So most of the time I kind of stick with like a streaming subscription service. I do a lot with excuse me, between like YouTube. I don't subscribe to like YouTube's Red, but I do uh, listen to a lot of music through YouTube, and then different places like Pandora to where you can like upgrade different things like that. And then for games, online gaming has had explosive growth. So think about like a Pokemon Go mobile platform. So types of digital gamers. So you have casual, social, mobile, fastest growing market, and then it's massively multiplayer online. And then also console. Business models in flux, and then esports and Twitch TV. So esports is one of those things I find really interesting because now we're starting to see, different colleges and different universities starting to have like esport teams, and it's actually becoming a little more mainstream. So where ESPN from time to time will like have like esport and competitions, then they'll show them, on ESPN. So I don't do a whole lot of gaming. It was one of those things whenever I was younger, I was into it, but now that I've got a little bit older, I don't have nearly as much time. I don't necessarily get into it. That might be an interesting fact about me is I don't have a single game app on my phone. I'm sure that will all change whenever my daughter gets a little bit older, probably because I'll probably need something to kind of keep her entertained. But yeah, be interested to see if any of you kind of do anything as far as games on your mobile phones or not. So that's all I've got for Chapter 10. We will see you next time in Chapter 11.